We're going to take a deep dive into Penn State's running back room today. I've been wanting to start a series similar to this. I used to do just the entire offense, but I think when you do too many players at once, it kind of obscures your opinion on any single one. So we're going to look at Penn State's running back room today, not just how we think they're going to be in 2025. We'll talk about that, but the emphasis of the video wants to be is going to be in 2026, 2027. How are they set up for the future? 2025, it's pretty obvious. You ask any college football insider, they'll tell you that you could ask them if you had to name one position room in the country that's the best, regardless, not even just best running back room. You just ask what's the best, most loaded position room in the country. A lot of people will point to Penn State's running back room and totally understand why. Watching Singleton and Katron Allen, I really can't believe these guys are back. If we would have done this video next year, you'll see we're taking them off the roster for 2026, obviously, because they can't come back. They're going to be in the NFL. They're graduating. But if we would have done this video in 2024 offseason, we would have been like, yeah, it's awesome. Their running back room's really good for 2024, but, they're both going to be gone in 2025, so that's a big loss. It's crazy that they have both of these guys back because they're both so good, both going to be playing Sundays for sure. Something that I've noticed about Penn State's running back room compared to other running back rooms, you watch Texas, they don't really have a defined type. They just recruit players that do something, have one or two really good traits, and then they try to develop around that. Like when you watch a lot of Texas's running backs, they'll be certainly not complete running backs yet, but they'll be really fast in a straight line, or they'll just have massive frames. I got to tell you, with Penn State's running backs, they're all very well-rounded. That being said, when you trade off the well-roundedness, you're kind of trading off the eliteness at one trait. But I've noticed that about every single kid I've watched here. I like to try to define players and try to throw them into buckets. It's a bit harder at running back, but at receiver, when a kid's like 6'5", this guy's probably a jump ball guy, or when he's a bit shorter, it's because it's probably more of a slot guy. Running backs really could not do that with Penn State because they're just all so well-rounded. And one thing I'll tell you is watching them in high school, watching all these players in high school, they're very developed running backs. They're not just good athletes, but they actually run with patience. They have vision. A lot of SEC programs don't really recruit those kids as heavily. They will, that's a nice trait to have is the refined running back stuff. But I've noticed other programs put more of an emphasis on raw athleticism, and when it pays off for those other programs, it hits big. But a lot of times it's really a gamble because they recruit more athletes. I can tell you, Penn State, just from watching the running backs really closely, they recruit more running backs. A lot of these kids are running backs in high school, not athletes that they're trying to mold into running backs. So, yeah, 2025, Singleton and Allen, best 1-2 punch in college football. If not, they're certainly in the top three. Really no argument about that. We're going to be talking about these kids in the NFL draft this time, or in April. Very excited for both of them. Allen specifically, I'm really high on, but I don't think we can't really say anything that hasn't been said about these two because they're both great. Outside of those two, you're expecting Corey Smith, I think, to be your third running back. Really productive last year, 152 yards, 7 yards per carry. And a crazy part about Corey Smith producing that much last year is he's able to keep his red shirt, so he's still a freshman. So run for 150 yards without using a year of eligibility, that's just massive. And I think that's really going to help Penn State's roster calculation going forward. And yeah, we'll take a look at what the roster is going to look at in 2026 here. So having Singleton and Allen's awesome for 2025, but this year's blessing is going to be next year's curse. There just won't be that much production coming back into the Penn State running back room in 2026. Is that a bad thing? No. I mean, that's good teams replace talent. It's better to have that talent in the first place than to never have had it. So leaving a massive hole, and there's going to be a lot of playing time to go around for these underclassmen in 2026. And we're going to take a look at each one of them here. So we're going to start with Corey Smith. Like I said, already contributed in 2024. Very productive, 7 yards per carry. Was able to keep his red shirt. This kid's a great athlete. So I said something before about none of these Penn State running backs really falling into a bucket. This kid's a bit closer coming out of high school, but you could already tell how much weight this kid's put on. You can see he looks very undersized here. You watch his you watch him in 2024, you could tell he put weight on as soon as he stepped on the campus. So where you're getting with this kid is great lateral agility, just an overall great athlete. I said something before where I was like, Penn State doesn't recruit great athletes. I didn't really mean it like that. I almost meant athlete derogatory, and I didn't mean it that these kids aren't athletic. That's just not all that they can do. They're just good football players also. They're good athletes that happen to be good football players also. You'll see other teams put more of an emphasis on just raw athletes. This kid, when I first watched him, I was like, okay, you see this kid's got easy hips, really easy change of direction, really fast at a straight line. You probably just won't see some of the more nuanced running back stuff. And I was wrong. This kid runs with good contact balance. This kid, very patient. You'll see a play in a couple seconds here, I think, where I just could not believe the way he just let the block set up the way he did. So we might not get to that far, but I'd be very excited if I was a Penn State for Corey Smith fan. If I was a Penn State fan, I'd be very excited for Corey Smith just because it's not very often you'll see a freshman produce like that, and especially then keeping his eligibility. Moving on, Quentin Martin Jr. Love this kid. Bell Vernon, one of the first high school football players I really scouted. This is coming out, 2-3 years ago. This kid is just a great all-around football player. Honestly, I thought he was going to end up playing corner at the next level. And I'm very glad he played running back because 6'1", 206. Absolutely love his frame. I actually like this kid a bit more than Corey Smith. I just think he has more of a traditional running back frame. Not to say that Corey Smith's not going to be successful. I just think that handling the grit of an SEC schedule, I think this kid's a bit more Big Ten schedule. I think this kid's a bit more prototypical. Very easy change of direction. Just another kid, well-rounded athlete, bit bigger than Corey Smith, but you'll watch him play every position that you can really even name. Watching him a lot. I watched a whole lot of his senior year. I think I saw him play quarterback at a point. You'll see him play a lot of receiver, defense. You even see him play some quarterback. But if we were evaluating him as a receiver, this is a hell of a route. So that translates to him with the ball in his hand. I don't actually think you'll see a whole lot of running back reps on the highlight tape, but this is another kid. When you do see the running back reps, he's not just running in a straight line. He's actually letting the block set up. Similar deal like I was pointing out with Corey Smith, but I think even Quentin Martin to another level. So I've been very excited about this kid for a while. Not going to see the field in 2025 in a running back role, but I would think you'd be kind of wasting the talent just letting this sit on the bench. I understand how rife with talent the whole Penn State roster is, but this kid's pretty good in his own right. This is kind of a play I was highlighting before. So you see him how fast he's in a straight line. Watch him not put the burners on. A lot of kids that are good athletes, they want to run. Good runners run. That's kind of the track athlete curse. Is football is such a stop and start game, and sometimes you have to be slow and then turn it on. Watch him. He's slow here, block sets, and then he just hits the jets here. Great athlete, great football player also. Quentin Martin. If you ask me who leads Penn State Nittany Lions in rushing yards, I would take Quentin Martin, to be honest. But we'll see. It's wild down the line. Just let the highlight tape play a little bit here because I really do like this kid. I'm getting like nostalgia here. Yeah, Quentin Martin Jr., big fan of him. So I think we hit on the two names that are going to be they're not going to be Katron Allen and Singleton in 2025. You won't see them. They won't be that good in 2026. I'm saying they're still going to be younger, both going to be underclassmen, Corey Smith and Quentin Martin. Only going to be sophomores in 2026. So I think when we start talking about them being elite at a national level, the way the two guys are now, Singleton and Allen, I think that's going to be a bit more down the line. So those are the two guys I expect to lead the team in rushing yards. Now we're going to be talking about a bit more depth guys, just because they're younger. Tyke Hayes, 5'11", 204. Aliquippa. Really should know how to say this school's name because it's obviously legendary. It was like Darrell Revis, right? Alma mater. This kid, what do I like about this kid? Really explosive. Good lateral agility. Again, I said before, these kids aren't like top tier athletes, but I mean, I really, rewatching them, I might have misspoke here because all of them move very well. And, this is something that's kind of interesting. You just look at Penn State's roster. They have very few kids that are under 200 pounds, and you don't really see that in every college football. I tell you don't see that in every college football running back room. A lot of them, you'll see guys that are still very undersized and just haven't put on weight. A lot of these guys, something about Penn State's strength and conditioning. Tyke Hayes, like this kid, I think he's going to be more in a depth role in 2026. Probably won't be till 2027 that we're really going to be factoring this guy as a major contributor. I do think he'll be getting a lot of burn, though, in 2026 for sure. Man, I'm not even really trying to get that deep into this right now, but look at this. Look at this cut. He's already ran 40 yards just back and forth here. I can't believe he still had the energy to make that cut right there and then, get the sideline. God damn. And just wrapping up this running back room, we're going to finish here with Jabri Coleman, 6 foot, 210. Really like this kid a lot, too. Really like everybody in Penn State's running back room, and that's something that you really won't hear me say that often. A lot of times there'll be one or two kids that I just throw on and I won't be big fans of. But Jabri Coleman, I think this kid's a bit more raw than Quentin Martin or Corey Smith or Tyke Hayes. Like I said, they were all really good running backs, all had a good understanding of letting the block set. Watching this kid's film, you don't really see that as much, but this kid might have the best athletic ability in the running back room. Really like his change of direction ability. I know I keep harping on change of direction. I just think it's the biggest trait that you get that you need as a running back or as a really just a football player. I know Penn State does a great job developing the athletic traits, but change of direction is one of those that's pretty hard. I don't think, for the most part, I think if you're really stiff in high school, really struggle with that. I think that's one of the more difficult things to develop at the next level. But explosiveness, straight line speed, don't worry about Penn State really developing that because, I'm not really trying to get into the NFL draft and all that. But every year I watch the NFL Combine, it's like every year the Penn State guys are the most explosive, the fastest. It's really crazy. And to that point, we got to remember with recruiting, this is high school. This is before they've had the coaching. Penn State, obviously, very rich history at running back, probably more than anybody in the Big Ten. Any recruit's a ball of clay, but I think when you have a program with a history of developing those balls of clay, you get very excited, and I think you can give them a bit more leeway, the high school tape, a bit more leeway of them as football players is what I'm trying to round this about. So a guy like Jabri Coleman, in my opinion, like I said, I think he's a bit more of just a raw athlete, and that's not to say he's not a great running back. I just don't think yet we've really shown that in high school. But of course, we're watching a 16-year-old run the football here. Very excited to see what he is as he gets more years. Not necessarily in the strength and conditioning, more of the actual football drills and all that. So I think down the road, the guy that's going to contribute very much just might not be until 2027. And Messiah Mickens is the one commit. That's what the asterisk means. It's supposed to be a freshman next year. We're not going to watch him on here because I think it's bad practice. I think it's bad juju to watch a kid and factor him into a depth chart situation when he's not actually signed yet. He's only committed, verbal commit. Might watch him on my channel, so subscribe if you want to watch that. We'll highlight him as a football player, but we won't really talk about him in terms of Penn State. But let me see. So I had a very interesting thing I wanted to talk about on here, and wasn't sure if I was going to bring it up, but when you lose two starters like Allen and Singleton, there's going to be a lot of conversations about bringing in a transfer portal running back just because a lot of these guys don't have a lot of in-game experience, and there's just not a lot of shares to go around in 2025, so it's going to be a bit of a similar situation with all these names. I don't really think you'll see them play that much. Like I said, Corey Smith, Quentin Martin, both guys that could see the field, it just won't be substantial. So there's going to be a conversation about bringing in a transfer portal running back. this offseason. And I don't think it's necessary. I really don't know how I would handle it. I definitely would bring a name in or two because, like, just looking at this right here, they have six names. They're definitely going to be a transfer portal addition, maybe another recruit that they go after. They won't have just 6 running backs on their roster next year. But in terms of people you're going to factor in as a number 1 or number 2 running back, I would expect them to bring one guy in. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that. I assume it's mostly Penn State fans watching this. Let me know what you think about adding a transfer portal. You know, I think it's easy to say, yeah, they'll add a transfer portal. I can almost guarantee they'll add a portal running back, but would you make that a priority? I feel like Penn State's in a position where they won't have to make that an off-season priority next year. You know, if the price is right with the kid, you get a kid at value. Completely would back them bringing another name in, but I wouldn't go into the offseason like, oh my God, we got to go spend money on the best transfer portal running back available. But without all that being said, you guys let me know what you think about this room. Really nothing else to say besides it's very talented. It's going to continue to get more talented just with the progression these players have, like I said before, athletically and as football players. But you guys let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.